So let's start with our first speaker of the day, an intelligent, articulate, handsome and humble man, me. Now, every year at the Kitchen Conference, I say every year, this is the third time, but we do a survey of retailers, a kind of family fortune style. We asked 100 retailers. Now, we're not pretending it's scientific, we're not pretending it's a hugely quantitative survey, but it does give a little indication, of some of the trends that that might be looking at from a kitchen retailer's point of view. Now, it's always good to start with a slightly pretentious quote of a presentation, and this is one of my favourites. Take from the altars of the past the fire, not the ashes. And that's kind of what today is all about, really. We've had enough of the doom and gloom, as everybody always says to me, so let's look forward a bit and let's try and find some new things to talk about, as opposed to some horrible things to talk about. And if you don't know who Jean Jaurès was, he was a 19th century French socialist politician. If you're not up on your French socialist politicians, then I apologise for that. So our kitchen retailer survey this year was focused on what can retailers tell us about consumers. A lot of you here are suppliers and manufacturers, but the retailers, the guys at the front end, the sharp end of the ones dealing with the people actually buying your products. So we asked them a series of questions about their consumers and what they can tell us about them. And like I say, we asked 100. That's our round number. Excuse me. So our retailers here, they're basically independents. They're mostly single-site kitchen retailers, some of them multiples, but effectively independents, who own more than one site as opposed to what you consider multiple retailers. So this is really what a lot of the retailers in the room, these are your guys, and some of you might have actually filled this survey in, I'm sure. So they're good in it, they're established and they're experienced, they've been in this game a long time, so they know what they're talking about. So we started off with what drives consumers, what are the important things, what are they thinking in their heads when they go into a showroom? Well, they enter the process of buying a new kitchen, what's the first thing they think? And we're going to start with price. So here's the question, when it comes to buying a kitchen, oh, by the way, I've got one of these this year. How good's that? SEAL Team 6. When it comes to buying a kitchen, my customers consider price above everything else. Is price the most important thing? Has that changed over the last few years when recession and downturns in markets have happened? And it's a pretty even split. So there's the actual numbers, but basically it's a third say yes, a third agree, a third don't, and a third have no opinion whatsoever, which is quite interesting in itself. Because if the fact that people have no opinion, it sort of suggests that the opinion on price is pretty movable, that they come in with one idea and leave with another 10 minutes later. And it also suggests that what consumers' knowledge of what something will cost is driven by the retailer. And it's the importance of the retailer in, particularly if you're suppliers and manufacturers, the power they have over what a consumer is going to pick. And we'll come on to that again later. And of course, it makes third agree and the third don't. It makes marketing very difficult. Who do you target? Who are you going for here? Are you going for those who just want to know, look, just tell me what's going to cost, mate, because that's the most important thing? Or do you want to talk to those who are interested in design and functions and detail and tell me the price tag afterwards? And it's the last one, obviously. But it does demonstrate that different messaging is needed for different consumers via the retailer. So let's carry on with cost. Because let's look at what knowledge consumers actually have. How much do they know about what a kitchen is going to cost them? How knowledgeable are customers on the potential cost of kitchen products? You know, how well do you guys inform consumers about what something's going to cost? And it's a pretty even 50-50 split. There's the numbers. Those come in, yeah, I've got a pretty good idea what it might cost me, and 50% who just, frankly, haven't got a clue. And this isn't about what budget they've got, this is what they think it might cost them. Now it's widely thought that consumers start their research online these days, and they're getting lots of ideas about products and design and aesthetics, but clearly there's huge sections of the market who are looking for that information. What's it going to cost me? And they're just not getting it. That information isn't being provided to them. This comes out again and again through some of these other questions we've got. And what's interesting actually to me is this doesn't correspond with the proportion of recommendations that retailers have. Vast majority, it's one of the questions later, but a lot of retailers say most of my customers come via recommendations. But somewhere along the line, those people recommending them aren't asking how much did your kitchen cost. They still have no idea. What are they talking about when they recommend kitchens to people? I don't understand. I like the door, but no, wouldn't you ask your friend how much it cost? Anyway. So again, do manufacturers, suppliers and retailers, of course, have a better job to do at the start of the research process, the start of the customer journey, in telling people what it's going to cost them, if money is such an important thing at the moment. But that's products, of course. So let's look at the other half, which is installation, which is always the worst bit. And this is actually a bit worse, because 2/3 of them didn't know. Not an idea. And it's a bit of a mystery to them. You're already putting a negative in front of them. You're already producing a price out of the blue that they weren't expecting in the first place. It kind of pops up and immediately halves the budget that they thought they had. So suddenly they're already disappointed by what they thought they were going to get. Well, I've got 10 grand to spend. Oh no, it turns out I've got 5. Which is already putting them on the back foot. So is there a way of marketing that? Is there a way of having a ballpark, first price is the complete price approach? I don't know, it's incredibly difficult. But again, anything that demystifies the process for people. And so this is borne out again by the next question, is what are they, forget about price, how knowledgeable are they about products? What do you tell them when they start that research journey? And over 80% of them have done some kind of research, magazines, internet, 10% of them very knowledgeable. But as you can see, 3/4 of them still take the lead from the retailer. So 80% of them have done some kind of research. If you go back to the slide before, 50% of them who have done, 50% of them still don't know what a kitchen's going to cost. They're all doing some research, but you're still not telling them how much it's going to cost them. However, if 75% are taking the lead from the retailer, again, if you're a supplier, then it's clearly all about what the retailer tells people. And they can gently lead people through the process. How effective is that when they start going? So let's look at conversion rates. My average conversion rate from quotation to sale is, and it's actually quite evenly spread, but you can pull out some figures from it. 1/10 of retailers fail to turn 70% or more of their quotations into sales. 70%. But 1/4 convert 70% or more. But as you can see, it's quite an even spread. There's some peaks there, around about the 70% or the 30% mark, and there's that a third split happening again. So it'd be interesting to go back and see how that corresponds with whereabouts in the market they operate. But what does this tell you about the consumer? It says to me, I like shopping around. I want to go and see what different people have to offer me. That's what it says to me. Is the conversion rate says, well, I'm getting a price from you, and you, and I'm going to go back and see what the best one is. So here's an interesting twist to this. Discounting. Remember, this is 100 more or less independent retailers. How often do you discount to secure a sale? How often, when you're trying to get that sale, do you discount what you do? 4/5 of kitchen retailers that we spoke to frequently use discounting to secure a sale, which is a lot. There's the numbers. And 1/4 do it all the time. Now, independent retailers in particular will criticise multiple retailers quite a lot for their constant marketing of sales and discounts all the time. But actually, by this measure, independents are just as guilty of discounting as multiples are. Now, their discounting might be genuine, whereas multiples may not, which is one of the arguments. And it kind of depends on your point of view. And of course, you don't market it in the same way. You don't market as incessantly the discounting. It's often to close that sale. But the truth remains that discounting is pretty prevalent in all parts of the sector. So the question is when a discount's good and when a discount's bad. But let's get into the actual customer themselves. Who makes the decisions? Who are you marketing to with your messaging, both for retailers and manufacturers? When couples are choosing a new kitchen, who's usually the dominant decision maker in design choices? Who's picking the designs? Half of them are women, 3% of them are men. And 43% are joint. Now, I don't know what to think about this. I'll have to ask my girlfriend. But, that's the aspirational side of things. But, I mean, if you look around this room, you can see how many women there are in here. It's a very male-dominated industry, and yet, from an aesthetic, design, marketing, aspiration point of view, that's the target audience. But if you go the other way, who's making the the decisions in financial matters, of course, 6% women, 55% men, and about the same joint. So all kind of gender stereotypes are kind of confirmed by that, really. The bloke is the one who's saying, just tell me how much it costs, mate. And the wife is the one saying, yeah, but I really want it. This is by I saw a kitchen retailer once who sold big tellies at the same time, and he did a roaring trade, because the wife was over there looking at the kitchen cabinets and the doors, and the bloke was just in front of the tellies going, can we throw one of these in, love? So let's come back to this idea of how they end up in your showroom in the first place. Now, you can recommendation still obviously dominates. There's 70% in there, which is what you'd expect. Local advertising, 10%. Social networking is absolutely no one said that at all. Now, there's different interpretations of this. One is that social networking doesn't work, and there's a couple of people in here who would argue that with you. I think it might be to do with how much retailers are involved in social networking and how they use it is as much, because social networking is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and I'm sure the vast majority of you here are on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever it is. So you know how important social networking is. That to me says more that people aren't taking advantage of something rather than it's a negative. But the online, we start our research journey online thing isn't really borne out by this either, because if it's about recommendations, there's still no real evidence here. Like, more people coming just by walking past the showroom than are coming via Google. Now, again, a lot of that is how retailers actually use it. But it does suggest to me that they do their research journey, they'll find out what products they want, they kind of know the design they want, and then they'll go and ask their friend who to talk to make it happen. And again, the power of the retailer. But if retailers wield that power, are we saying by this that retailers are the start of the journey? They might have a little bit of a look on the internet, and then they get a recommendation and go and see somebody. Well, actually, probably not. The real question is, how many customers have visited a multiple retailer before they've come to see you, the independent? And of course, over 80% of them said that most of them or some of them had. I mean, there's the numbers, 15% hardly any or none. And the multiples are household names. They're the ones with the budgets. They're the ones with the marketing. They're the ones that are all over TV and the newspapers and everything else. And while independents may consider themselves superior to multiples in many ways in terms of their service and design and everything else, it just shows that actually the first decision customers are making, if you go with this, is to not go with a multiple. And what are you doing as an independent to help them make that decision? And if you're a multiple, because there are a couple in the room, what are you doing to keep hold of them once you've got them? Because whether you like it or not, you're in competition with them. Because no matter what their budget is, if they think kitchen, marketing tells them to think B&Q or Magnet or whoever it is. So here's the one at the end where we ask people about their suppliers. And do manufacturers and suppliers truly understand the current needs of my customers? Oh, look, it's our third again. And what this is for manufacturers and suppliers here, of course, is the third that agree you're never going to get them to supply you because they're quite happy with who they've got. So that you could argue there's 2/3 there, particularly the third that don't, who are a very realistic target to get your products in there. They're looking for something new. They want suppliers who understand them, how their business works, and the customers that are coming in. But a lot of manufacturers and retailers do consumer research, of course, and they ask consumers what they think about this. But at the end of the day, you don't sell direct to them. You're not the guys talking to them. And a retailer can destroy hundreds of thousands of pounds of marketing just by going, don't want that, mate. So there's the actual numbers. Now, the last question we always ask is the one which requires them to actually do a bit of writing. And so part of the theme of today is about finding new opportunities in new markets. So where are the opportunities for new business and growth in the next couple of years? And we're asking retailers this, remember. Now, as you'd expect, we've got an awful lot about customer service and the general USPs of independence, great design skills, etc., etc. But there's some very interesting nuggets in there on sort of specifics. We've got a presentation later on about the grey pound, the 50-plus market, whatever you want to call it. And this came up a lot, the older generation of customers, the 50-plus age group, the over 55 buyer with savings. the senior age group, newly retired people, old folk, which is my favourite. It's just, I really hope that he's not doing the marketing. When diversification came up a lot as well, so soft furnishings, bathroom styles, bathrooms came up quite a lot, bedrooms, kitchen alterations came up a few times, door replacement, worktop replacement, that kind of thing. Full project management, fitted bedrooms, going up or down the market. And that kind of approach, again, looking for new suppliers, looking for new ideas all the time. And to sort of round it off, there's always those, of course, can't give a straight answer. So whereas the opportunities for growth in the next 2 years, oh no, there is this bit in between, which is the people who want other people to solve the problems for them. So bring back RRP, discounts on the internet, change the VAT rate, suppliers reducing their prices. Yeah? You all for that? Direct sourcing of goods to avoid middlemen and distributors. But then, of course, yeah, there's a bit at the end. Where are the opportunities for growth in the future? Good question. Work it out yourself. When you find out, please let me know. On another planet, but we can't afford to relocate. So that gives us all just a little bit of idea of what's in the mindset of retailers at the moment, particularly how they view their consumers, because so many of you spend an awful lot of money on marketing and spend an awful lot of money on design and everything, and product development, all those things, but at the end of the day, you're not talking to the consumers, the retailer is, and you need them on your side. Now, whether that's through financial help or just through helping choosing where they market themselves, is part of the help you need to give them. But at the end of the day, this is the sharp end, and if they don't think that you're helping them, then they'll go elsewhere. So that's me done. If you want to get in touch with me, here I am. And we will